The new girl in a foreign world. The rain drizzled softly against the windows as Maya Harper sat in the back seat of her mom's car, gripping her backpack as if it were her last anchor to the life she left behind. The town they'd moved to was nothing like her Chicago neighborhood. Here, everything seemed pristine and polished, from the neatly trimmed lawns to the cars lining the quiet streets. It was her first day at Westbrook Academy, a school known for its academic prestige and the exclusivity of its students. And Maya felt, more than ever, like an outsider. Maya glanced over at her mother, Dr. Ilana Harper, who drove with a steady determination, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. The nervous energy hung thick between them, unspoken but understood. Her mom's position as the new assistant principal had been a career milestone, but Maya knew this meant starting over again, in a place that already felt alien. Maya, her mom's voice broke the silence. You're stronger than you know. Don't let anyone make you feel like you don't belong, okay? Maya nodded, fighting the lump forming in her throat. Her mother's unwavering confidence had always been her rock, and yet Maya wished she could share her mom's faith in herself. Yeah, Mom, I know, she murmured, her voice barely audible. The imposing structure of Westbrook Academy loomed in the distance, its stone facade lined with elegant arches and climbing ivy. As they pulled into the parking lot, students clustered in small groups near the entrance, their laughter and chatter filling the air. Maya's grip tightened on her backpack. Even from a distance, she could feel their eyes darting her way, sizing her up as they whispered amongst themselves. The car stopped, and her mother turned to face her. Maya, I'll be here if you need anything. And remember, this is just the beginning. Maya took a shaky breath and gave a small nod. She pushed open the door and stepped out into the brisk autumn morning, adjusting her school uniform and tugging at her skirt to cover her knees. As her mother headed into the administrative offices, Maya braced herself, determined not to let her nerves show. Inside, the school was buzzing with activity. Students moved through the hallways with an ease that spoke of familiarity, of a sense of belonging Maya could only hope for. She clutched her schedule tightly, her eyes darting between the bustling groups around her. The walls were lined with banners boasting of academic achievements, rows of trophies, and framed photos of smiling students. Everything felt so pristine and, at the same time, impossibly intimidating. She found her locker near the end of the hallway and fumbled with the lock, glancing around to see if anyone was watching. To her relief, most students seemed too busy to notice her, until a voice rang out. Hey, you're the new girl, right? Maya looked up to see a tall girl with platinum blonde hair and piercing blue eyes standing in front of her. She had a confidence that radiated from her like a force field, her gaze sharp and appraising. Yeah, I'm Maya, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The girl's lips curled into a smirk. I'm Jessica. Welcome to Westbrook. It can be a tough place for outsiders. Her tone was smooth, almost friendly, but there was a glint in her eyes that made Maya uneasy. Thanks, Maya replied cautiously, unsure if she should feel comforted or threatened by Jessica's words. Jessica gave a small laugh and leaned in closer. Don't worry, you'll figure out where you fit in, eventually. She threw one last glance at Maya before sauntering off, her friends trailing behind her like shadows. As they walked away, Maya felt her stomach knot with dread. She had barely been here 10 minutes, and it was already clear she'd be under scrutiny. She gathered her books, took a deep breath, and headed to her first class. The day dragged on in slow, painful increments. In each class, Maya felt like she was sitting under a spotlight, her every movement watched, analyzed. The teachers, though polite, seemed almost surprised to see her there, as if she was somehow out of place among the students at Westbrook. Some students glanced at her with open curiosity, others with subtle disdain. During lunch, she found a quiet corner in the cafeteria, away from the groups of laughing, chatting students. She opened her backpack and pulled out her sketchbook, letting out a small sigh as she flipped to a fresh page. Drawing had always been her escape, her way of making sense of the world when words failed her. She sketched absent-mindedly, her pencil moving in rhythmic strokes, creating a scene of a forest at night, shadowed and mysterious. The lines took on a life of their own, reflecting the anxiety she felt pressing down on her. Suddenly, a shadow fell over her table. She looked up to see a girl about her age, with warm brown skin and dark, curly hair framing a friendly face. The girl gave her a shy smile, holding a lunch tray in her hands. "Mind if I sit?" she asked, her voice soft but sincere. Maya hesitated, then nodded. "Sure." The girl set her tray down and slid into the seat across from her. "I'm Elena. I think we have math together." "Oh yeah, I remember," Maya replied, grateful for the small bit of familiarity. Elena glanced at Maya's sketchbook and smiled. "You're really good. I wish I could draw like that." Maya felt her cheeks flush. "Thanks. It's just something I like to do." They chatted for a few minutes, a tentative friendship forming between them. Maya felt a sense of relief she hadn't expected, like she'd found a small lifeline in the sea of unfamiliar faces. But just as she started to relax, Jessica and her group sauntered over, their eyes flicking between Maya and Elena. Well, Jessica sneered, her voice dripping with mock amusement. "Didn't know we were recruiting new members." Elena's face flushed, and she quickly looked down at her tray, avoiding Jessica's gaze. Maya felt a surge of anger rise in her chest, but she kept her expression neutral, refusing to give Jessica the satisfaction of a reaction. "Relax, Jess," Elena muttered, clearly uncomfortable. "We're just talking." Jessica leaned in, her gaze cold and calculating. "Be careful who you associate with, Maya. Not everyone sticks around here for long." The threat hung heavy in the air, and as Jessica and her friends walked away, Maya's fists clenched under the table. She didn't know what Jessica's problem was, but she had a feeling it was only the beginning. After school, Maya waited in the parking lot for her mom, her sketchbook open in her lap as she tried to push the day's events out of her mind. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves around her, and for a moment, she let herself imagine she was back in Chicago, back where things made sense. "Rough first day." A voice broke through her thoughts. Maya looked up to see Mr. Lee, one of the teachers she'd met earlier, standing nearby. His expression was kind, his gaze understanding. "It was okay," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. He nodded, as if he understood more than she was saying. "Starting fresh can be tough, but you'll find your way. Just remember to be true to yourself." She managed a small smile. "Thanks." As he walked away, she saw her mom approaching, a warm smile on her face that immediately melted some of the tension inside her. "Hey, kiddo. How was it?" Maya shrugged, giving her a half-hearted smile. "It was fine." Dr. Harper studied her for a moment, then placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You know, you don't have to be brave all the time. But whatever happens, you'll get through it. We'll get through it. Together." Maya nodded, feeling the weight of her mother's words settle over her like a protective shield. She wasn't sure how she'd face the challenges ahead, but with her mom by her side, she felt, at least, a little stronger. As they drove away from Westbrook, Maya glanced back at the imposing school building, a sense of determination hardening within her. She wasn't sure what lay ahead, but she knew she wouldn't back down. Unseen bruises. The next day, Maya walked into Westbrook Academy with a mix of dread and determination. Her mother had dropped her off near the entrance and left her with an encouraging smile, but Maya could still feel her nerves eating away at her resolve. The hallway felt colder today, like an invisible tension hung in the air, as students turned to glance her way. Some whispered, some just stared openly, making her feel like an uninvited guest at a party she hadn't asked to attend. As Maya approached her locker, she noticed a group of students huddled nearby. Jessica stood at the center, laughing with her friends as if she were holding court. They paused when they saw her, their laughter fading into sly, knowing smiles. "Hey, new girl," Jessica called out as Maya turned her back to put her things in her locker. Her voice was filled with a false friendliness that Maya was beginning to recognize. Maya ignored her, focusing on organizing her books and closing her locker. But Jessica was persistent. "So, do you like Westbrook so far?" Jessica continued, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "It must be such a big change from wherever you came from." Maya took a deep breath, willing herself to stay calm. "It's fine," she replied simply, refusing to give Jessica more than that. Jessica chuckled, nudging one of her friends, who smirked. "Well, I just hope you don't get too comfortable. You know, some people just don't fit in here." Her words hung in the air like a subtle threat, and Maya could feel the weight of their gazes as she walked away. In her first class, Maya tried to focus on the teacher's lecture, but her mind kept drifting back to the exchange with Jessica. She could feel the anxiety gnawing at her, threatening to unravel her carefully built composure. She glanced around the classroom, hoping to catch a friendly face, but most students seemed engrossed in their own conversations or looking past her as if she didn't exist. As the teacher began discussing a new group project, Maya felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this would be her chance to connect with her classmates and show them she was more than just the new girl. But when it came time to pair up, no one looked her way. She watched as students gathered into groups, leaving her alone. Just as the last pair formed, the teacher noticed her still sitting by herself and paired her with Elena, the girl who had been kind to her in the cafeteria yesterday. Elena smiled as she moved her desk next to Maya's. "Hey, looks like it's you and me." Maya returned the smile, grateful for the friendly face. "Thanks. I didn't think anyone would, you know." Elena waved her hand dismissively. "Don't worry about them. People here just need time to warm up." She paused, giving Maya a thoughtful look. "Jessica's been acting like this since middle school. She likes to pretend she's in charge of everyone." Maya nodded, feeling a mix of relief and frustration. "I just don't get why she's targeting me. I haven't even done anything." Elena sighed. "With Jessica, you don't have to do anything. She's complicated. But if you ever need someone to sit with, you know where to find me." Maya smiled, feeling a little lighter. "Thanks, Elena. That actually means a lot." At lunch, Maya found a spot at a table by herself, hoping to avoid any more confrontations. She took out her sketchbook, hoping the familiar act of drawing would calm her. As her pencil danced across the paper, creating a scene of two animals huddled together under a vast, stormy sky, she lost herself in the rhythm of each stroke. But the piece didn't last long. Jessica and her entourage passed by, their laughter echoing through the cafeteria as they spotted her. "Look, she's all alone. How sad," Jessica whispered to her friends, though her voice was loud enough for Maya to hear. Maya gritted her teeth, fighting the urge to respond. She knew giving Jessica attention would only make things worse. But as Jessica continued to laugh, another voice interrupted. "Do you mind?" Elena said, standing a few tables away with her hands on her hips. "Why don't you leave her alone, Jessica?" Jessica raised an eyebrow, feigning surprise. "Oh, we were just saying hi. Just trying to be friendly, right, girls?" Her friends murmured their agreement, and with one last smug look, Jessica moved on, leaving Maya in peace. Elena gave Maya an apologetic smile, mouthing sorry as she sat down at her own table. Maya felt a rush of gratitude, knowing she wasn't entirely alone in this. After lunch, Maya made her way to the art room, where she had a free period to work on her sketches. The art room was her sanctuary, filled with the comforting smell of paint and charcoal. She settled into a corner by the window, letting the sunlight spill across her sketchbook as she worked on a new drawing, a girl standing alone in a vast, empty landscape. She was so absorbed in her work that she didn't notice Mr. Collins, the art teacher, standing behind her until he cleared his throat. Maya looked up, startled. "You're quite talented," he said, nodding toward her sketchbook. "You have a way of capturing emotion." Maya blushed, closing the sketchbook self-consciously. "Thank you. I've been drawing since I was little." "Well, keep it up," he encouraged, offering her a kind smile. "Art is a great outlet, especially in a place like this." Maya nodded, feeling a sense of understanding in Mr. Collins's words. He didn't pry or ask questions, but she sensed he understood what it felt like to be different. His kindness reminded her of the teachers back in Chicago who had encouraged her talent. The final bell rang, and Maya made her way to the school entrance to wait for her mom. She watched the students pouring out of the building, laughing and chatting as they made plans for the weekend. For them, Westbrook was home, a place where they belonged. For Maya, it still felt like a cage. As she stood by the entrance, she saw Mr. Lee, the same teacher who had spoken to her yesterday, approaching her. "Hey, Maya. Hanging in there?" Maya nodded, managing a small smile. "It's an adjustment, I guess." Mr. Lee studied her for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "You know, it's okay to be different. Sometimes standing out isn't a bad thing. It means you have something unique to offer." Maya looked down, unsure of how to respond. She wanted to believe his words, but it was hard when she felt so out of place. "Thanks, Mr. Lee." He nodded, giving her a reassuring pat on the shoulder before heading off. As he walked away, Maya felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe there was a way to make this work. Maybe she could find her place here, even if it wasn't the one she had imagined. When her mom's car finally pulled up, Maya climbed into the passenger seat, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. Dr. Harper glanced at her, sensing the tension. "How was today?" she asked, her voice gentle. "It was better," Maya replied, not quite ready to share the full story. "I met a girl named Alina. She's nice, and there's this art teacher, Mr. Collins, who gets it, I think." Her mother nodded, giving her a warm smile. "It sounds like you're finding some good people. It might take time, but you'll find more." Maya nodded, resting her head against the window as they drove home. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she felt a little stronger, a little more prepared to face whatever came her way. As they drove through the quiet streets, Maya thought about her sketchbook, her artwork, and the small sparks of kindness she had found today. Maybe, just maybe, there was hope after all, rising above the shadows. The next morning, Maya walked through the gates of Westbrook Academy with a slight resolve she hadn't felt before. She'd spent the night sketching, her room dimly lit, as she poured her emotions onto the page. Each pencil stroke had helped soothe the sting of the previous day, building up her confidence layer by layer. But the moment she stepped into the bustling hallways, a familiar nervousness washed over her. She knew what was coming. It didn't take long for Jessica to make her presence felt. As Maya reached her locker, she found a slip of paper sticking out of it. Unfolding it, she read the words scrawled in messy handwriting. "Some of us belong here, some don't. Don't get too comfortable." The words sent a chill through her, but Maya clenched her jaw and crumpled the paper, shoving it deep into her bag. "Not today, Jessica," she thought to herself. As Maya made her way to her first class, she spotted Alina standing by the doorway, her face lighting up as soon as she saw Maya. She waved her over, and Maya felt a sense of relief rush through her. "Hey, Maya," Alina said brightly. "I was hoping I'd see you before class." Maya returned her smile, feeling grateful for Alina's presence. "Yeah, she hesitated, her thoughts lingering on the note she'd just received, but she decided against mentioning it. She didn't want to burden Alina with her worries. Before they could chat further, the bell rang, and they took their seats. Throughout the class, Alina would occasionally glance over and smile at her, a small gesture that helped Maya stay grounded. But the peacefulness didn't last long. During lunch, Maya found herself once again at her usual corner table. She had hoped Alina would join her, but a last-minute assignment had kept her friend tied up in the library. Just as Maya pulled out her sketchbook, she noticed Jessica and her friends eyeing her from across the cafeteria. Jessica strutted over with a smug grin, her entourage in tow. She took the seat across from Maya without asking, leaning forward as if about to deliver a grave announcement. Her friends surrounded the table, effectively trapping Maya. "So, Maya, still enjoying Westbrook?" Jessica asked, her voice oozing with fake politeness. Maya kept her gaze down, trying to ignore the tight knot forming in her stomach. "It's fine," she replied shortly, her voice steady. Jessica chuckled, sharing a smirk with her friends. "You know, I heard some teachers don't think you're really qualified to be here. But hey, don't let that get to you." Maya could feel the heat rising in her face, a mixture of anger and embarrassment. She wanted to respond, to defend herself, but something held her back. Jessica's words dug deep, scratching at insecurities she tried to keep buried. Jessica leaned in closer, her eyes glinting with a predatory look. "If you ever need help with, fitting in, just let me know. I could give you some pointers." She flashed a wicked smile before standing up and sauntering off, her friends laughing as they followed. As they left, Maya sat there, her hands trembling slightly. Her eyes stung, but she blinked back the tears. "No, you're not going to give her that satisfaction," she told herself firmly. Taking a deep breath, she opened her sketchbook and focused on her drawing, allowing the pencil strokes to calm her. This was her safe space, her sanctuary, and not even Jessica could take it away. The school day dragged on, with each period feeling like a test of endurance, but Maya managed to push through, her mind set on something Mr. Collins had told her during art class. "Art isn't just an escape," he'd said, watching her work on her latest drawing. "It's a way to face the world, to say things without words. Remember that, Maya. Your art has power." Those words lingered with her, echoing in her mind as she tried to focus on her classes. When the final bell rang, she gathered her things and made her way to the art room. She was determined to finish her latest piece, a sketch of a young girl standing tall against a backdrop of stormy skies. Just as she was getting into the flow of her work, she heard footsteps approaching. She turned to see Mr. Collins, who gave her an encouraging nod. "Your work is getting bolder," he remarked, looking at her drawing. "There's strength in every line, Maya." Maya felt a warmth spread through her at his words. "Thank you. I guess I needed that today." Mr. Collins nodded, his expression thoughtful. We all need reminders of our strength sometimes. And for what it's worth, I think you're stronger than you realize." She managed a small smile, and for the first time that day, she felt a flicker of confidence. Maybe she could make it through this, even if it was one small step at a time. As Maya walked out of the art room, she found Elena waiting for her in the hallway, her face lighting up as soon as she saw her. "Hey, you ready to head out?" Elena asked, looping her arm through Maya's with a casual ease that made Maya's heart feel a little lighter. "Yeah, I'm ready," Maya replied, genuinely smiling. They walked out together, and Maya told Elena about her drawing and Mr. Collins's encouragement. Elena listened intently, nodding along with genuine interest. Elena said, "I've always admired people who can express themselves like that. It's like you're telling a story without words." Maya nodded, her confidence bolstered by Elena's words. "Thanks. I guess it helps me deal with everything else." Elena paused, her gaze turning serious. Maya, you don't have to deal with everything on your own. I know Jessica can be difficult, but you have people here who care about you." Maya felt a rush of gratitude. For the first time since arriving at Westbrook, she didn't feel so alone. She looked at Elena, her heart swelling with appreciation for her friend's kindness. "Thank you, Elena. Really," Maya said, her voice barely a whisper. As the days passed, Maya found herself leaning more into her art, pouring her emotions into each piece she created. The fear, the frustration, and the hope. It all found a voice in her drawings. Each stroke of her pencil became an outlet, a way to process the roller coaster of emotions she faced daily. But Jessica didn't let up. Her bullying remained subtle yet relentless, a steady undercurrent of cruelty that Maya couldn't escape. Jessica would leave notes in her locker, slip her snide remarks in the hallways, and find new ways to make Maya feel like she didn't belong. One afternoon, Maya found a small group of students staring at her as she walked through the halls, whispering behind cupped hands. She caught snippets of their conversation, words like outsider and doesn't fit. She felt her pulse quicken, the familiar rush of anxiety tightening her chest. But instead of running, she stopped in her tracks, meeting their gaze head-on. "Is there something you'd like to say to me?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear bubbling inside. The students quickly looked away, mumbling to themselves as they dispersed. Maya watched them go, a sense of triumph swelling within her. For the first time, she felt the power of standing up for herself. That evening, as she sat with her mom over dinner, she shared bits of her day, the notes, the whispers, the relentless looks. Her mom listened intently, her expression both concerned and proud. "You know," Dr. Harper said, reaching across the table to squeeze Maya's hand, "you're not alone in this, and I am so incredibly proud of the strength you're showing. Keep standing tall, Maya. No one can take that from you." As Maya went to bed that night, her mother's words echoed in her mind. She thought about Mr. Collins's encouragement, Alina's friendship, and the small victories she'd begun to claim. There would be difficult days ahead, she knew that. But for the first time, she felt a quiet strength growing within her, a resilience that would carry her through the challenges yet to come. A spark of courage. The morning sun peeked through the window as Maya sat on her bed, going through the stack of sketches she'd worked on over the past few weeks. Each piece reflected a different emotion: frustration, hope, loneliness, resilience. The images felt like a timeline of her experiences since coming to Westbrook Academy, a silent record of every challenge, every small victory. Today, however, she felt a glimmer of something new: courage. Maya placed her drawings back in her folder, determined to carry that feeling with her as she faced another day. She wasn't sure what Jessica had planned, but today, she decided, would be different. She would no longer let Jessica's subtle cruelty rule her life. As Maya walked through the school entrance, she noticed a group of students gathered by the lockers, chatting and laughing. She glanced over and saw Jessica among them, her eyes narrowing as she caught sight of Maya. Jessica's smirk made it clear that she still saw Maya as an outsider, a newcomer who didn't belong. But today, Maya met Jessica's gaze without flinching. She held her head high, refusing to let the intimidation seep into her heart. Just as Maya was about to turn toward her locker, she felt a gentle tap on her shoulder. She looked over and saw Alina standing there, her eyes bright with excitement. "Hey, Maya. I've been looking for you," Alina said, pulling her aside. "Guess what? Mr. Collins asked me to help organize an art showcase for next month. He's opening it up to all students, and I think you should submit some of your work." Maya's eyes widened in surprise. The idea of her drawings being displayed publicly was both thrilling and terrifying. I don't know, Alina. I've never shown my art to anyone outside of family and a few friends." Alina squeezed her arm reassuringly. "Trust me, your art deserves to be seen. Besides, think about what you've been through here. It could be your way of telling your story. I think people would really connect with it." Maya felt her heart race at the thought. The idea of her artwork being seen by others was daunting, but there was a certain appeal in the idea of expressing herself, of showing everyone, including Jessica, that she was stronger than they thought. "Okay," Maya replied, a small smile forming on her lips. "I'll do it." During lunch, Maya decided to tell Mr. Collins that she wanted to participate in the showcase. She found him in the art room, organizing supplies and humming to himself as he arranged paintbrushes. "Mr. Collins," Maya began hesitantly, stepping into the room. He looked up, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. "Maya, come in. What brings you here?" She took a deep breath. "I wanted to let you know that I'd like to submit my work for the showcase, if you think it's good enough." Mr. Collins's face broke into a wide smile. Maya, your work is more than good enough. It's powerful. Art that tells a story always has a special place in people's hearts. Maya's cheeks flushed with pride. Mr. Collins's encouragement was a reminder that her art was more than just an escape. It was a voice, a way to reach others without needing to speak. The excitement of preparing for the showcase gave Maya a new sense of purpose, something that felt bigger than her daily struggles. She spent every free moment in the art room, working on her pieces, each one inspired by her experiences at Westbrook. The loneliness, the resilience, and the small moments of joy she'd found with friends like Alina. Jessica, however, seemed to notice Maya's shift in focus. In the hallways, her group would still throw snide remarks, but Maya found herself ignoring them, her thoughts centered on her artwork. This only seemed to frustrate Jessica further. One afternoon, as Maya walked to the art room, she saw Jessica and her friends loitering near the entrance. Maya tried to walk past them, but Jessica stepped into her path, blocking her way. "What's with the attitude, new girl?" Jessica sneered, her eyes flashing with irritation. "Too busy with your little drawings to say hi." Maya met her gaze steadily, a calmness washing over her. "I'm just minding my own business, Jessica. Maybe you should try it sometime." A flicker of surprise crossed Jessica's face, and for a brief moment, Maya thought she saw something else, something that looked almost like insecurity. But Jessica quickly masked it, her lips curling into a mocking smile. "Don't get too comfortable," she replied, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "This school isn't as welcoming as you think." Maya held her ground, refusing to let Jessica's words shake her. She had her own reasons to be here, her own goals. She didn't need Jessica's approval to belong. In the days leading up to the showcase, Maya poured every ounce of emotion into her art. Each piece was a reflection of her journey: sketches of shadowed hallways, empty seats, lone figures standing against a storm. But amid the darkness, she added glimmers of light, symbols of hope and resilience that captured her determination to rise above. On the morning of the showcase, Maya walked into the art room to find her artwork already displayed on the walls. Her heart raced as she looked at the pieces, each one a silent testament to her experiences, her struggles, and her growth. For the first time, she saw her journey laid out before her, a reminder of how far she'd come. As students began to trickle into the room, Maya felt a mixture of excitement and vulnerability. She watched as they looked at her artwork, some murmuring in appreciation, others standing quietly as they absorbed the stories her drawings told. To her surprise, Alina approached her with a group of classmates, their expressions a mix of awe and admiration. "Maya, these are amazing," one of them said, his voice filled with genuine respect. "You really captured. I don't know. It's like I can feel what you were going through." Maya's eyes shimmered with gratitude. "Thank you. I didn't know if anyone would understand." Alina squeezed her shoulder, giving her a proud smile. "You did it, Maya. You found your voice." The showcase ended with Mr. Collins giving Maya a nod of approval and a look of pride that felt like a warm embrace. She couldn't help but smile as she gathered her things, the weight of everything she'd been through lifting, replaced by a newfound strength. But as she prepared to leave, she saw Jessica standing by the door, her expression unreadable. Maya took a deep breath and approached her, bracing herself for whatever Jessica might say. But instead of a snide remark, Jessica simply looked at the sketches, her gaze lingering on one in particular, a lone figure standing against a storm, defiant and unbroken. After a moment, Jessica looked at Maya, a strange softness in her eyes. "You know, I didn't realize you could do all this," she muttered, her voice quieter than usual. Maya felt a surge of empathy, realizing that Jessica might have her own struggles, hidden beneath her mask of superiority. "Everyone has something they're dealing with," she replied gently. "Maybe you just need to find your own way to express it." Jessica gave her a long, searching look before nodding slightly, as if absorbing Maya's words. Without another word, she turned and walked away, leaving Maya standing there, a sense of peace washing over her. That night, as Maya lay in bed, she thought about the day's events, feeling a sense of closure she hadn't expected. She realized that her journey wasn't just about standing up to bullies like Jessica. It was about finding her voice, embracing her strength, and using her art to connect with others, even those who had hurt her. As she drifted off to sleep, she knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she felt ready to face them. She had found her courage, her purpose, and most importantly, her place. Seeds of change. Maya stepped into Westbrook Academy that morning with a confidence she hadn't felt since arriving. The art showcase had been a turning point. Her work had given her a voice strong enough to reach her classmates and even make Jessica pause. But more importantly, it had helped Maya understand her own strength. She'd faced Jessica, expressed herself, and felt the thrill of being understood. Today, she carried that sense of belonging with her. The halls buzzed with chatter as students moved between classes, but this time, the looks Maya received were different. There was curiosity, sure, but also something else: respect. As she passed groups of students, a few even offered her small nods or friendly waves. It was a small but meaningful change. When she reached her locker, she found Alina waiting for her, grinning widely. "Maya, you're a celebrity now," she teased, nudging her. Maya laughed, feeling the warmth spread through her. "I don't know about that, but I think things are getting a little better." "Are you kidding? Everyone's talking about your art. I even overheard some teachers discussing it in the staff lounge," Alina said with a proud glint in her eye. "I think people are finally starting to see the real you." Maya felt a rush of gratitude. "Thanks, Alina. I don't know if I'd have made it this far without you." Alina shrugged, brushing off the compliment, but Maya could see the sincerity in her eyes. "Hey, we're friends. That's what friends are for, right?" The word friends filled Maya with a sense of warmth and stability. She hadn't thought she'd find this kind of connection here at Westbrook, but now that she had, it felt like something precious. A reminder that even in a challenging place, good people could make all the difference. Later that day, Maya made her way to the cafeteria, expecting to sit with Alina and her usual group. But as she entered, she spotted Jessica sitting alone at a table by the window, staring out across the courtyard. Something in Jessica's posture caught Maya's attention. She looked uncharacteristically small and distant, a far cry from the confident, dominating presence she usually exuded. Maya hesitated. Part of her still remembered the pain Jessica had caused her, the countless subtle jabs and the cold stares. But something else tugged at her. The expression on Jessica's face reminded her of how she'd felt on her first day at Westbrook, lost, vulnerable, and in need of a friend. Before she could overthink it, Maya took a deep breath and walked over to Jessica's table. "Mind if I sit?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. Jessica looked up, surprise flashing in her eyes. For a moment, Maya thought she might tell her to leave, but instead, Jessica gave a small nod. "Go ahead." They sat in silence for a few minutes, an awkward tension hovering between them. Maya glanced out the window, watching the autumn leaves dance in the wind, unsure of how to begin. Finally, she decided to speak from the heart. "I know we haven't exactly gotten along," Maya began, choosing her words carefully. "But if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. I think everyone has their own struggles, even if we don't always show them." Jessica's expression softened, a flicker of vulnerability crossing her face. She looked down, tracing patterns on the table with her finger, as if struggling to find the right words. "It's just hard sometimes," Jessica murmured, her voice barely audible. "This place, this pressure. Everyone expects you to be perfect all the time, and if you're not, well, you know how that goes." Maya nodded, feeling a surge of empathy. "Yeah, I do. It's easy to feel like you have to put up walls to protect yourself from everyone else." Jessica looked up, meeting Maya's gaze, and for the first time, Maya saw the real person behind the facade. She saw a girl struggling under the weight of expectations, someone who wasn't so different from herself. In that moment, something shifted between them. A quiet understanding, a mutual respect born from shared vulnerability. "Thanks, Maya," Jessica said softly, her voice filled with a sincerity Maya hadn't expected. "For listening." Maya offered a small smile. "Anytime." After lunch, Maya and Alina sat together in history class, and Alina gave her a curious look. "So, what was that about?" she whispered, gesturing subtly in Jessica's direction. Maya glanced over at Jessica, who was sitting across the room, absorbed in her notes. "I don't know," Maya replied honestly. "I think maybe she just needed someone to talk to." Alina raised an eyebrow, a look of surprise mixed with admiration crossing her face. "That's really nice of you. I mean, considering everything." Maya shrugged, feeling a bit sheepish. "I guess I just realized that sometimes people act out because they're dealing with their own stuff. Doesn't make it okay, but maybe it explains some things." Alina nodded thoughtfully. "I guess that makes sense. You've got a big heart, Maya." As class continued, Maya felt a sense of pride in herself, knowing she'd reached out to someone she once saw as her enemy. It was a small act of kindness, but it felt like a step toward something larger, something she hadn't yet fully grasped. In the days that followed, Maya noticed a subtle but meaningful change in her interactions at school. Jessica and her friends were less antagonistic, and even the cold stares had softened into something closer to acceptance. Maya's art showcase had shown her classmates a side of her that words never could, and now they seemed to see her as part of their community. One afternoon, Mr. Collins pulled her aside after art class, his eyes twinkling with pride. "I heard you've been making quite an impact around here, Maya. Not just with your art, but with how you carry yourself." Maya blushed, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "I just wanted people to see that I belong here too." Mr. Collins nodded. "And they do. You've done something powerful, Maya. You've shown that strength isn't always about standing alone. It's about reaching out and building connections, even when it's hard." His words lingered with Maya as she made her way to her next class. She realized that her journey at Westbrook had become about more than just surviving. It was about creating her own place in this world, a place where she could thrive and be true to herself. As Maya walked out of school that evening, she saw her mother's car waiting in the parking lot, and her heart swelled with gratitude. She knew her mom's support had been the bedrock of her strength, the source of her resilience. When she climbed into the car, Dr. Harper gave her a knowing smile. "You look happy," her mom remarked, glancing over at her. "I think I am," Maya replied, her voice filled with a quiet contentment. "It's just, things are getting better. I feel like I'm finally finding my place here." Dr. Harper reached over, squeezing her hand gently. "I knew you would, Maya. You're stronger than you know." Maya looked out the window, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange. She realized that this journey wasn't just about overcoming the challenges at Westbrook. It was about discovering who she was and embracing the strength she'd always had within her. As they drove away, Maya felt a sense of peace, a quiet confidence that she knew would stay with her no matter where life took her next. A place to belong. The weeks that followed were like a steady sunrise for Maya, each day bringing a little more light into her life at Westbrook Academy. She had found her rhythm, a balance between academics, her art, and the friendships that had quietly taken root and blossomed in unexpected ways. Walking through the hallways felt different now. She was no longer the new girl or the outsider. She was Maya Harper, a part of the community in her own right. One morning, Maya walked into the art room and found Mr. Collins waiting with a stack of student artwork spread across the table. He glanced up as she entered, a glimmer of excitement in his eyes. "Maya, I've been meaning to talk to you," he said, motioning for her to sit. "The art showcase was such a success, and I've been thinking of doing something even bigger this year, a student-led project. something that could really make an impact. Maya's interest was piqued. "What do you mean?" "I want to create a mural," he explained, a hint of enthusiasm in his voice. "Something that represents the spirit of Westbrook. And I'd like you to lead it." The proposal caught Maya off guard. The idea of leading a project, especially one so visible and important, was both thrilling and terrifying. She thought about the journey she'd been on, the hurdles she'd faced and overcome, and a quiet determination filled her. "I'd love to," she said, a smile spreading across her face. I think I have some ideas that could really bring everyone together." Mr. Collins nodded approvingly. "I knew you'd say yes. This is going to be something special, Maya, and I think you're the perfect person to make it happen." The mural project quickly became the talk of the school. Students from different classes and social circles began signing up to participate, each one eager to leave their mark on something bigger than themselves. Maya spent her free periods and lunches planning the mural's design, envisioning something that would represent unity, resilience, and diversity, themes she'd come to cherish through her own experiences. On the first day of painting, Maya stood in front of the blank wall with Elena by her side, holding a box of brushes and paint cans. Elena nudged her playfully, her eyes glinting with excitement. "Well, Miss Leader, where do we start?" Maya grinned, feeling the surge of pride in herself and her friends. "Right here," she replied, dipping her brush into a pot of blue paint and making the first stroke. It was a simple line, but it felt like a declaration, a way of saying, "I belong here." As the days went on, the mural began to take shape. More students joined, some just stopping by to add their own touches, others staying for hours to work alongside Maya. Even Jessica made an appearance, arriving one afternoon with a shy smile and asking if she could help. Maya nodded, handing her a brush. "Of course. Everyone's welcome." Jessica worked quietly, adding subtle details to the background. Occasionally, their eyes would meet, and there was an unspoken understanding between them, a bridge that had been built over time. Jessica's presence, once intimidating, now felt natural, and Maya realized that in their own ways, they'd both changed. One afternoon, as the mural neared completion, Dr. Harper stopped by the art room to see her daughter's progress. She stood back, taking in the vibrant colors and intricate designs that now covered the once blank wall. Maya beamed with pride as her mom surveyed the mural. "It's beautiful, Maya," Dr. Harper said, her voice full of emotion. "You've captured something really special here." Maya felt a lump rise in her throat. "Thanks, Mom. It's more than just art to me. It's everything I've been through since I came here, and it feels like I'm finally showing everyone who I am." Dr. Harper placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, her eyes glistening with pride. "I'm so proud of you, Maya. You've done something incredible, not just for yourself, but for everyone here." On the day the mural was unveiled, the entire school gathered to see the finished piece. The mural depicted a large tree with strong, twisting roots that spread out across the wall, each root interwoven with symbols representing different cultures, beliefs, and dreams. The branches of the tree reached upward, adorned with leaves in countless colors, each one representing a different student's unique contribution. Mr. Collins addressed the crowd, his voice echoing in the atrium. "This mural is a reflection of the spirit of Westbrook Academy, a place where every voice matters, where every story is important. And it was led by a student who exemplifies these values. Maya, would you like to say a few words?" Maya felt a rush of nerves as she stepped forward, the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. She glanced at the faces around her, Elena, Jessica, her mom, Mr. Collins, and took a deep breath. "Thank you," she began, her voice steady. "When I first came to Westbrook, I felt out of place. I didn't think I could belong here. But through this mural, and with the support of friends and teachers, I realized that belonging isn't about fitting in. It's about embracing who you are and sharing that with others." She paused, looking at the mural with pride. This tree, with all its roots and branches, represents each of us. We're all connected, even if we don't always see it. And I hope this mural reminds everyone that no matter where you come from or what you've been through, there's a place for you here. The crowd erupted into applause, and as Maya looked out at the faces around her, she felt a sense of fulfillment she hadn't expected. She'd come to Westbrook as an outsider, but now she stood here as part of something much bigger, a community that had embraced her and helped her grow. In the weeks following the unveiling, Maya's life at Westbrook blossomed in ways she hadn't anticipated. She'd made lasting friendships, built bridges with former adversaries, and discovered a strength within herself that she hadn't known was there. One afternoon, as she sat with Elena in the cafeteria, Jessica approached their table, looking tentative. "Mind if I join you?" she asked, her voice softer than usual. Maya smiled, gesturing to the empty seat. "Of course." As they chatted, laughter filled the air, and Maya felt a sense of contentment settle over her. She knew that her journey was far from over. There would be new challenges, new hurdles to overcome. But now she had friends by her side, a supportive community, and the confidence to face whatever came her way. That evening, as Maya sat in her room, she pulled out her sketchbook and flipped through the pages, each drawing a reminder of the struggles and triumphs that had shaped her journey. She stopped at a blank page, picking up her pencil and beginning to draw. A girl standing tall beneath the branches of a mighty tree, her face serene and strong. She smiled as she completed the sketch, a sense of peace washing over her. She was no longer the outsider, the new girl. She was Maya Harper, a young woman who had found her place, her purpose, and her voice. As she put down her pencil and looked at the drawing, Maya whispered softly to herself, "I belong."